Hey everyone, how are you all doing? This is Jared Napolitano, aka JNAP, the marketing advocate for the Star Wars CCG Players Committee. In case you don't know me, filling in this week as the Holotheatre host for the one and only Dan Tartaglione, who's getting a much deserved week off. We're going to do a day later this week on Thursday here, the April 14th edition. We have a really good show tonight. It's going to be a little different. It's definitely going to be less bells and whistles than usual. I'm on a Mac, so I can't as easily tap into all the great graphics that Dan has set up through a PC with the software that we typically use. So this is going to not be as flashy, but hopefully it's got some good, solid, dense information and news about, I shouldn't say dense, good information about what's going on in the game. And we are going to have I think it was a really good interview. It was about 30 minutes with Jeff Levine, who won the 2022 Endor Grand Prix. A lot of great things to hear Jeff touch upon about his journey from a returning player less than 2 years ago, really, to a major event champion. So I'm gonna aim to start that up maybe 20, 30 minutes into this. We'll kind of do like a tour through what's going on in the game. We're gonna do a giveaway of a couple of the updated Ray images, which I have here. These were the giveaway for Endor. So if you wanted to definitely get one of these, you went to Endor or you volunteered at Endor. If you wanted these, we don't want to we try not to make prize support overly exclusive, but if you participate in the stream of the recap of the Endor Grand Prix, I think that's a valid reason to get one of these really cool. They're the new material. Kevin calls them the chrome foils. And this is an updated image of Ray where it has kind of a little bit different look, which is really cool from our graphics lead, Christian Knutson. So we'll recap Endor. I also just got breaking news. I have news on who won the infamous tiebreaker for the April OCS. So Joe Olson and Bastian Winkelhaus tied at 11-1, I believe, each, with the exact same strength of schedule. So the tournament committee deliberated because there's no OCS this month. And actually, I think I'll just announce this right now. The tournament committee deliberated, figured out what should be the next step down from tiebreakers, since this is pretty crazy. But there were a couple options considered, not to get all on how the sausage is made, but I have it on the authority of the technology advocate, and obviously through the sign-off of Chris Schoenthal, the tournament advocate, and the players committee, or not the players committee, the tournament committee, that Bastian won the tiebreaker, the next tiebreaker. And I'm not sure to what extent I should go into exactly that. I think there's probably nothing wrong with going into it, to be transparent, but it's what I think, better to, beg for forgiveness than beg for permission, and whatever the phrase is. The next step was the opponent's strength of schedule. So basically it was all of Joe's opponents versus Bastian's opponents, which of them, combined played a harder slate. And I'm sure Chris or Adam or someone else in the tournament committee can explain this a lot better than I can. But Bastian will get one of the two spots for April, and we'll make, and that's interesting because Joe, Bastian, and Silverglen are the three players who've made the first 4 OCSs, and now Bastian will be the first player to clinch an appearance in all 5 online championship series playoffs from 2018 to 2022. So congratulations to Bastian. Tough break for Joe. I think Joe's in really good. I think he went 10-2 and 11-1, so he's in good shape for qualifying. So starting off the show with that, now let's jump into some of the other news around the game. And if you're in the chat, feel free to interact, ask questions. It's just me. I know a lot of the guys who usually help with the show went to Endor, so they're had a pretty busy weekend traveling. I didn't want to, especially since I'm kind of just doing like a 20-30 minute segment here, and then playing the Jeff interview. Didn't want to grab Kessling or Taco Bell or just for 15-20 minutes when I'm sure they got plenty else going on. So yeah, let's jump in. We'll do recap Endor first. So Jeff won. All the streams are up. Dan helped set everything up as the stream team lead. Commentary was done by Jan Westergaard, and off-site with Eric Hunter and Charlie Arlinson. All the commentary was really great. And then Taco Bill and Joe helped on Sunday. All those videos are up on the YouTube channel, so check those out. The deck lists are all posted, thanks to the deck list team. In case you're not aware, these are all the text list. And then all the importables, there's a link here. This is all, you go to the homepage to click on tournament events. And you can get to the Jemp portable deck lists, which are pretty easy just to load right up into Jemp and start playing. So yeah, I guess just interesting takeaways from the meta. There was one Agents of Black Sun, which Jeff won with. There was 0 Legend. There was 0 Profit. There was 0, I think 0 WAP. A lot of CCT, a lot of Shadow Collective. And I have this recap article, which touches a little bit upon what the popular decks were. But yeah, so Jeff defeated his teammate Brad Reinhold in the final. Team event was won by Connor Britton and Ryan Serson. With the consolation event, Steve Harpster took first and Batmouse took second. So it looked like a really great weekend. I was able to at least listen to a lot of the streams, not necessarily watch it all because I was kind of bouncing around all weekend. But Brian Fred finished first in day 1, finished third on day 2. Koen came over from the Netherlands with Eric, and that was really cool to have international presence. We had 2 Canadians, I think, with Derek Jackson and Aaron Freddy coming down. So it was a good international event. We had a couple of first-time top 8ers with Kyle Kalin and Jeff, his first in-person live event, as we'll get into. He made a couple of the top 8s recently. And yeah, so check out this article. It's right on the homepage, starwarsccg.org. Talks a little about the giveaways, thanks to volunteers, talks about the next event, which we'll get into as well. But that is the Endor Grand Prix for 2022. Special shout out to Chris Werfs. This was the 6th. I think they started it back in 2016. There was 1 year off last year. But I'm 99% sure that Chris Werfs has been the primary organizer of this event each and every year. So always heard great things about this event, and hopefully one day I get out there. Yeah, so we have the deck list, we have Endor. If you did not catch it, on Sunday morning, Chris Kelly, our design advocate, joined the stream with Joe Olson to talk through set 18 spoilers. He went through. I was listening to this. I wasn't watching it every single. I don't know if he did. I think he talked about some errata. I know he showed some images. I don't know if he hit 100% of them, but we can talk about them. We've been spoiling some images, and the full spoilers up here. This is in the announcements forum. So if you're not a big forum person, forum.starwarsccg.org. There's an announcements forum right near the top. Click on that. This is at the top of that, and it has all the set 18 cards, which I haven't counted, but it looks like it's about maybe 25, 30. There's more light side cards. And, I know the obvious question is, well, when's this going to drop? It's going to drop soon. I think within the next, I would guess, not talking out of turn, just kind of knowing what Chris has alluded to publicly about having this legal for the Pc20 event, which we'll talk about, which is April 30th. I don't think they're going to drop it on Jump on April 29th. But I also don't think it's going to be like tomorrow. So I think sometime in the next 5 to 7 days would be my bet. But the production leads with Christian on graphics and Chris Hull, Joker King on proofing, and everyone involved in the process to make new virtual cards just does a fantastic job. And the process, I think, just keeps getting better and better and smoother. And and obviously the playtesting team is great too. That a lot of the bugs, pretty much, hopefully all the bugs are worked out with these new cards. So that is virtual set 18. One thing I wanted to show, so I think people saw this, but I just wanted to say this was just spoiled actually on Twitter yesterday. I'll cover up my face for a second. This Polis Massa, which is a beautiful image and is intended to bolster the Skywalkers, aka the Force is Strong My Family Epic event, which has had some reworking. It should be better, more playable. This helps the kind of the space angle of that deck. So this image is just beautiful. I think Kieran made a comment this would be a pretty cool foil. I could see that for sure, but I think since a lot of the images were spoiled already, I wasn't going to spoil any more card images, but I think this is one of the best images of the set, and I think it's no secret that there's more and more full slips that seem to come out each set. Yes, Eric, to your question. Yeah, those donations we can, or the custom sheets, we'll I think that'll work. I think the timing of that'll work. So reach out if you're interested in that. And we'll touch upon that in a minute with the donations. But that is virtual set 18 right around the corner. We've been kind of doing spoilers in a couple different places. And yeah, really excited for that. I definitely want to play Watch Your Step and maybe try out kind of a little bit of a different spin on Hunt Down. There are just a lot of different themes and decks touch upon on 18. So I'm really looking forward to building decks and trying them out. I think that Pc20 event, it's going to be a really cool opportunity for people to play with, a brand new meta. Things aren't going to be super duper refined at that point. So that should be a really cool event, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That's a spoiler list. If you missed the spoiler show, it's on the YouTube page, youtube.com/c/Star Wars CCG. That's it. And it's this video getting lots of views with Chris and Joe here. You can watch the replays of the Final Confrontation, all the Endor streams, including the last week's Holotheatre episode, which was really, really, really funny. That was a great watch. I suggest watching that. Between Bill and Brian Fred, I was a lot of knee slappers in there. I was laughing a lot. The other thing I want to check out, in case you haven't, are this virtual card stream, which Matt Manning, he has Board Matt is his YouTube, and we plugged his YouTube as one of the content creators a couple weeks ago. But I just want to plug this because if you know someone who's coming back to the game, if they're an old school player, if they say they hate virtual cards, and you think maybe they don't maybe they just don't have the full understanding of them, I would point them to this video. It's only like 35 minutes or so. I think Matt and I, toot our own horn, I think do a pretty good job of going through a lot of the who, what, when, where, why, so to speak, of virtual cards. So hopefully if it gets a couple more people to take the step into playing with virtual cards, I consider that a big success. So I just want to plug that video. Next up, so along the whole images thing, the Pulse Massa is really sweet. Probably if we do another edition of the best virtual card image challenge in a couple years, it'll probably make it. But Dan's running this. It's had a little bit of a break just because Endor's going on. But this looks like we're getting towards the next round of 32. No, round 3, right? So Sweet 16. We're getting there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so this is cool. So we're rounding out Sweet 16. Make sure you're participating in this. These are through the Facebook group. I think Dan's going to fire it up, next few days. I always don't mind that this is kind of a nice slow burn, but this gels with the program that Kevin's been administering, and Dan and Kevin's making all the product support. This is the sticker book challenge, and this is going to segue me into giving the token in a moment. But yeah, if you're interested, what is the sticker book program people are talking about? The prizes, just go to forum.starwarscg.org, general discussion. It's right at the top, 2022 Best Virtual Card Image Program, or Sticker Book Program. And what the gist of it is, and I think it's a nice program, but I'm not sure if everyone, there's a lot going on with it, I think, but a lot of good stuff going on with it. So what you want to do is, I'm going to give the token, so it's going to be Chewbacca for this episode. So that's the token. You want to email holotheatre@starwarsccg.org. Just say, hey, 414 episode Holotheatre, token Chewbacca. And then what Dan's going to do is accumulate all these submissions into a spreadsheet. And if you submit really one, I would say, maybe two, you're going to get a pack. But what this says is, I think what Dan touches upon in this post is, you're not going to, if you do 15 submissions, you're not going to get 15 packs. If you do one, you're not going to get 0. We just want to try to figure who's the most active people, how many packs do we have, distribute it proportionally. The most active people get, a bigger piece of the pie. The less active people get a little bit less. So it's, it's that. So, and there's a whole stream going into this with Kevin Yopp. You can watch the replay on Holotheatre a couple weeks ago, but there's some really cool special foil papers, which down here you see these sparklies. And then there's like these little stickers, which are like mini cards, and you can collect them all and you can trade and build it up. And down here recently, Kevin just posted, he is busy making all these packs. So he's got 357 boosters for the first batch. So he's got a lot. So there's a lot of packs. And when this program was kind of, Kevin first brought it up, I think I mentioned this on some other stream, but I wanted to make sure, hey, it's attainable to get these, right? Like you don't want it to be like, you don't have to go through Brian Fred lengths to reach out to people to try to build your collection. It's going to be possible for several people to complete their sticker books. And if you're not interested in the stickers, trade them for other PC swag, but do not sell. But the foils I think are pretty cool, and they go in decks. So make sure following along the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/StarWarsCCG. And yeah, make sure you submit. Chewbacca is the token. So Dan hopefully gets a bunch of submissions, and you can update those. So we'll close that. Next up, donations program. So we have literally 1 day left. Closes on April 15th. A lot of people have already donated. Thank you very much. There's a lot of great stuff that I know the PC is going to be, using those funds for to help with the mission and the initiatives that a charity organization lay out to further the game. And a lot of the different aspects of keeping it going and teaching it, passing on to different generations. But so just want to do a plug. The incentives are a little different than prior years. I think people really like the incentives because the response, we actually just got hit over 100 people have donated as of today. It was at 99 going into today. So just want to stress that the deadline's tomorrow. And the reason for this 4-month window, it's mentioned in here, like we want the program to be shorter so that we can print everything and get it out. And hopefully it's in everyone's hands by like early June. Because there's a lot of cool stuff in here, like the deck boxes, the foils. There's just a lot of cool things that we want people to have sooner rather than, a year from now, or we don't want to wait for the whole entire program. Last year we did 2 rounds. There were some pluses and minuses to that. So this year I think we said, I think a shorter window makes more sense. So plug for that. We did the sticker book token, talked about the donations program. I mean, I'm gonna order, a couple extras of each item. But if you're late, there's no guarantee, because maybe you say, hey, it's April 17th, I do want to donate, and I'll say, hey, okay, that's great, thank you, but I just want to caution, I can't 100% guarantee that we have everything, because some of these things I'm going to order like on the 16th, 17th, just because they take some time to customize it. I want them to be, the process to start, get shipped out in our hands, so we start packaging them as soon as possible. Sooner the better with a lot of these things. So that's where the kind of the tight time frame or comes from, but that we just want to get it into get this process moving as quick as possible. All right, so next up, retro event. I have seen a lot of really interesting games. Greg Shaw, I saw him playing Decide. There's none going on right now. I just saw Steve Baroni was playing Magnus, who's doing pretty well. So let's check the leaderboard real quick. A lot of people doing pretty well. So Casey is in the clubhouse. He's in first at 11-1. He beat me twice. Johnny Chu, Mr. Yellow, is at 8-1. Magnus here at 8-1 from Norway. Justin Desai 8-1. And then we have some other people doing really well. No Reply, Rich Craft, Timo 4-4. CK, our design advocate, 5-0. So he has the most wins with no loss of anybody, with Pistone right behind him at 4-0. So yeah, I'm doing scoreboard updates every couple days, but definitely some familiar names here. And I think we have, what was the number? I think it ended up being around 70, maybe 72 players. I got to play my games. I've just been using the sample decks because just haven't had the time or know-how to constructively build a good deck for this format. But there's a lot of Senate, a lot of combat. I've seen some games where there's Senate, combat, and pod racing all going on, and it is wild. The end of the Decipher era was pretty crazy, and I am happy that we have shields for some of this stuff right now. So that is the retro event. Let's jump into the PC20 tournament. This event, one-day event, April 30th. It's sign-ups close on April 27th, so a little under 2 weeks. We have, I think, 21 players so far. There's 2 groups. If you're a European player, Group A probably makes a little more sense. That's like the 7 a.m. start-ish. It might subject to go up or back, maybe 30, 60 minutes. I think there's no pre-registration, prizes for this. I'm kind of hoping that a lot of people register in the next week or two, because, like I said, it's I think people, since there's no real incentive to sign up early. Hopefully a lot of people sign up. Okay, hey, I'm positive I don't have any conflicts with family, personal, professional. I can definitely play in this event because it's a lot to carve out, especially as the weather's starting to get nicer in a lot of areas. But hopefully people participate to a good extent. The prizes are really good. Shout out to Crystal Climber, our friend Kyle S., who's formally sponsoring this event, which is a pretty neat thing. So the prizes are really sweet, and thanks to Kyle for that. Cash prizes are pretty nice. They are. Not quite a major, but they're pretty good. And then we have an uncut sheet. We got a sealed box. We got some exclusive foil slips for your battle order and battle plan. Half shields. Jeffrey Johns made some stuff. We got poker chips, top 8 stuff. So registration closes on April 27th, Dorsch. So note that the timer is 40 minutes, which I for a few reasons for that is one, people don't want to. We're trying to avoid this being like 10 hours. I want it to be as close to, as quick as possible. But obviously, you don't want people to rush. It seems like with a 6-game event, it's probably always going to be someone who goes to time. But I know Taco Bell right now is going to be running the 7 a.m. shift. I'm going to be running the 3 p.m. shift. It is open format, but the hope is that we can be pretty transparent of, okay, the round's starting at this time. The next round will start at this time. If your game finishes early, go walk the dog for 20 minutes, go grab lunch. So we're going to try to balance that, which I think is becoming a little more common, of just trying to be transparent, so you're not like glued to your computer of, oh, when's the next pairings coming out? I want to make sure I'm not missing them. I don't want to be late. So we'll do our best to make sure that's the process and make sure that it's as smooth as possible, I should say. So yeah, there'll be trophies. Player of the Year points are on the line for this as well, which I think I'm seeing a lot more enthusiasm for Player of the Year points, which feed into Outrider Cup. And that's great. And I know it's kind of a weird stretch with the COVID pandemic, because there was very, very few European events. There was not a ton of US events for like 2020 that had Player of the Year points. So hoping that we have this, it's not, live events are always going to have them. We want to be cautious with how many in-person events or online events have them, just because it's a little bit of a different game, but they're still competitive. People still try really hard, and it's still Star Wars CCG to like 98% of the same game, I would say. So yeah, so that is the Pc20 event. Now that Endor's closed, after April 30th, U.S. Nationals around the corner. It is less than 3 months from tomorrow. I think Garrett Larson's been doing a great job leading that, of course, with the show and the rest of the tournament committee. So July 15th to 17th, Minneapolis, Minnesota. The hotel's downtown, which I think is a change, and I think a lot of people are really excited about that it's not. I know a lot of times we have events at like airport hotels, which is very convenient from flying in and out, but not necessarily always have the best like food options or other options, maybe on like Thursday or Sunday night, that type of thing. So the signups for that, I imagine, are going to be going up in a few weeks. And prize support, I already sketched out this with the help of the marketing team. I have a couple items in red here. So I announced this casually on Slack, but the pre-registration foils V-slip is going to be the Mithril, which is the new Jabba's prize. That's going to be foil. It's going to be front and back, which I probably should have had the image for that, but that's going to be pretty cool. Just that silvery. The theme for Nationals is Cloud City. Carbonite, Cloud City kind of goes together, but that also will be the pre-registration foil V-slip for Euros. So we'll send them over to Chris and Tomas and Kevin. If they want them, maybe they'll make their own on the Kevin has that different foil paper that we have, but I think that would be a good idea, because it's a card that every single person needs to use really in their deck. So hopefully that's good. And then we have a couple of red items down here, a couple things we'll think about, a couple more swag items that are going to be for participation, so everyone will get them. So we have a lot of ideas. Thank you to everyone who's just been, however casually or directly or indirectly, you've shared ideas on prize support. I have a pretty long list of options, so it's just a matter of, hey, what makes the most sense? What's kind of what's the most benefit cost-wise, and what's feasible, and maybe what might have some kind of thematic gelling with the event and with the area. So there'll be a couple more prizes. So stay tuned on that. That's Nationals prizes. We're almost to the giveaway and the interview. So Nationals prize support. I just want to plug this program again, the content creation incentive. These are these green boosters. This is a forum post. You go, again, forum.starwarscg.org, go to content creation section. This, I think, is in the announcement, so it should stand out. But these green boosters that Kevin's been working on are really cool. They're white border AI foil cards on the new foil paper of AIs that were released, I think, through like maybe 2020. So, or maybe they're not the newest AIs. They're kind of like the unlimited edition is what Kevin's going for, which I think is really cool. And I took this picture down here, but this doesn't really do it justice. And I'm not, they're really, really cool. Because when we first sent them, I was like, okay, these are really cool. And then when I like opened them up to just go through every single, I'm like, wow, these things look amazing. So some people have already gotten these. Content creation, if you're doing a YouTube channel, if you're doing, a lot of good commentary, not just like one game here or there, but just like if you're a good member of the stream team, you're generating content, you are, maybe just primers. I think one thing, we have Joker King, I know, is working on kind of like a mini, I guess he hasn't used the word primer, but I think he's going to gear it to be like a primer of virtual set 18 cards. So that's an example of something that'll be worth it. But of course, Chris already did one of the deck tech videos, which hopefully people saw. There was 4 of them during the Endor Grand Prix streams this past weekend, which are really cool. They're like 5-minute rundowns of certain players, what decks that they like, and kind of, that's also in this forum, and Kendall's leading that up. So it's a new project you could be a part of. So check this out. If you want to make some deck tech videos, he'll edit it a little bit just to make sure that it's nice and concise and that you're sticking to kind of the outline and not too long or not too short. But those are really cool. I think those are good for like in between streams at majors. So I just want to plug the content creation incentive. Two more quick plugs, and then we'll do the giveaway, and then we'll do the interview. So it looks like we're at a decent time. So the Retro League, so Event 2 is in process right now. It's premiered to Hoth. First event was premiered to A New Hope. After this event, it's going to go kind of way forward to premiere to Death Star 2. So I think there's a lot of people that might really like Death Star 2. That format, that was pretty popular with last year's Retro, but some of these really early formats like Premiere to A New Hope, Premiere to Hoth are a very different game. But Steve Sanders is running this. If you want to sign up for the event 3, 4, 5, and you could do all three of them, you could do one of them, whichever you want to do. Each event kind of has a fresh registration list. So I think we have, so this is, I think, game 2 or 3. Fun Thing, Fatty is his name, is his handle, Craig Atkins, go check out his YouTube page. He does a lot of great Star Wars CCG top 10s. Really, really great delivery. He reached out, and we're gonna stream together on the PC channel the game 5, game 6 for this event 2 of Hoth. He's an old school guy, but I think that'll be fun. Hopefully we get another like 4-0 versus 4-0, and we can then stream it. It should be a good competitive game, and we can keep it on the PC YouTube channel for posterity. People can watch it going forward. So that's pretty cool. That's a good point in the chat too about regionals. So I know we have Tula regionals, which are in Sweden. That's being organized by Bjorn. It looks like a lot of people are going out for that. I think it's in Malmo is the town. And then UK nationals are in June, and Kevin's leading that up. This stuff's all in the forums, and I'm sure we'll promote it on social media. The Bathawui regionals just got announced. Eric Garchow is organizing them. So these events have kits. They have guidelines. The kits are not required. We hope you want them, but if you don't, and actually I guess I can announce this too. So Chris Goglin's going to be updating the PC store. The kits I think are $70 and $75 dollars, but they're going to be cut to $25. They're going to be $25 each. That'll include shipping and include whatever's listed on there, including the travel vouchers. If for like a couple folks that already paid for them, we will reimburse you for the difference. So for just a bunch of reasons, I think next year we're going to do things a little bit differently. We'll probably have like a vouchers package and then no vouchers package. This is all unconfirmed. It still needs to kind of be hashed out and solidified. But I was getting some casual or informal feedback, I should say, on do people like vouchers? Would they rather have swag? What exactly would you guys want from those regionals and states / European nationals kits? So we'll customize that for next year. But for this year, we want to stick with the current kits. We just wanted to make them a little cheaper, so more accessible to folks, especially in Europe. Because one of the feedbacks I heard was, the main feedback was, they just don't quite stick as much with the European player base. They'd rather have other stuff than the vouchers, which is totally fair. And it's really on my fault for not kind of hashing that out a little more ahead of time. But the kits will be $25 each. That'll include shipping. It'll include the vouchers and include all the stuff listed. So that should be reflected in a couple days, or whenever Googlen has a chance. So that's the regional states. Talked about the Retro League. You still sign up for that. May OCS is around the corner. Looks like we have a couple weeks. The Pc20 event's on April 30th. The next day, May OCS starts up. It's going to be a pretty intense race for the at-larges. There's a lot of people like Ryan Surson's 22-2, and I don't even think he's at the top. I think he might be tied with Drew, or Drew went 12-0, and then I think he went 10-2, and someone could correct me, but it's gonna be really hard to get the at-larges for the first season. Hopefully as the season goes on, hopefully some of these players that are doing really well in the at-large race, hopefully they qualify for months and then open it up for the rest of us who might need the at-large route to qualify. But just want to give a shout out to Adam, who recently bumped this thread. It's in the OCS forum. He maintains these ratings, which I always find kind of interesting. And actually what's even more interesting, I think, is kind of the graph too, where you can kind of track your progress over time. You can kind of filter this for anybody. I think recently kind of big news is Desai has taken over the lead from Paul Myers. Or no, not Desai, Bastion has, sorry. but I think Josiah I think is second now. Yeah, so you guys can see this thing's really cool. This is Tableau. This is what Adam has maintained. It's not the be all end all. Some people, once they qualify, like Joe for example, they're not taking it 100% seriously, which is not a sin. But yeah, I just find this interesting, just personally, to track my own kind of progress over time. But yeah, so that's that. Let's do a giveaway. I'm going to do one live giveaway and one for the replay. So let me hide this. Let me put the Ray one on. So like I said, I have a trivia question, and people who can't answer this, if you went to Endor, don't do this. You already have a Ray, and yeah. So, or if you do, please pick someone very quickly to give it to. So we'll do one here. I'll ask the question. First person to respond in the chat gets one. And then if you're watching the replay, answer the question, send it to marketing@starwarsccg.org. If we have 5 people or if we have 10 people, I'll just do a random number generator to pick whoever the person to receive this is, and I'll just add it to update my spreadsheet so you get it. So again, these are the Ray foils. So the giveaway will be, let's see. So we announced who won the tiebreak. All right, so name a combo card that does not have a slashed image. And by slashed, I mean 2 separate images. So like a lot of combo cards, you have the one card on the other card, but there are other cards that are technically combo cards that are just one picture. So, yeah, so it looks like Wayne jumps in first. Wampa and Dianoga is not. And it's funny that Gurgal mentioned this because I actually asked this question somewhere recently, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. There are combo cards that are not necessarily with the split image. So yeah, Dr. Vaz and Pandababa would have been one. The one that I didn't think of right off the bat was Figuring Dan and the Modal Nodes. Because yeah, that is a combo card. Those are like 5 different characters in some respects, and that's where Gurgle comes in with the different rules implications of it's one character, but it's not one character, and all that. So let me write down, and I'll jot this in the spreadsheet that Wayne gets it. And again, if you're watching a replay of this, you can send it to marketing@starwarsccg.org, and I'll do a random giveaway. All right, so we are a little over halfway through, so we're going to go a little bit over. But I don't have anything after the interview, so what I'm going to do is just play the interview, and then I'll look at end screen. So I guess I'll do some preemptive, thank you everyone for tuning in this week. Tune in next week, hopefully. I'm sure we'll have a show next week. It's just a matter of who exactly is doing it and who the guest will. I think Dan said that it'd probably be Brad Reinhold will come on, which would be cool. Yeah, so this was Star Wars CCG Holotheatre. One comment I wanted to make on the interview before we jump into it, there was one point that Jeff made that I wish I kind of elaborated on a little bit more. But he made one comment when I asked him, and you guys will see this, like, what was your kind of thinking of going from day 1 to day 2 and different decks to use? And he basically was like, I don't have a lot of cards. A lot of even the cards in my 2 decks that I've been playing a lot, I had to borrow. And so it kind of made my decision for me. Like you probably could have, if you really wanted to play a different deck, you probably could have built it together. But it just made me think, because I really, it kind of gets under my skin a little bit when people say there's so many barriers to entry, or things are so expensive, or how am I ever supposed to play in these events and compete with people? It really can't be said enough. This community is amazing. And if you need a couple cards, people will share cards, decks. I think there's some events that between Chris Kelly and Brian Fred, they probably provided 20% of the field's decks. So people who have a lot of cards are very generous with them. I know Joe lent out decks. Obviously you have to be very careful with it. Don't abuse it. But for the most part, people are just without hesitation like, yeah, sure. And obviously with set 18, there was those preview cards that were kind of like budget cards to help lower some of the barriers to entry. But this is a hobby that's you got to spend some money sometimes. But I think the PC's just done an amazing job over the years in making newer players still be viable, and that's where we touch a little bit upon in the interview about how good Jemp is, because you can play a bunch of different decks before you invest in, and it's like a lot of people make certain purchases. Hey, make sure you are really going to use the thing you're going to purchase. Hey, I'm going to buy this new iPad. Am I really going to use it? Yeah. So I'll make the purchase. So those types of decisions with cards, like, don't buy a bunch of cards for decks you're never going to play. That's where Jemp comes in. Of you can play with different cards, get familiar with them, figure out decks that you like, that you're good with, and that are current, and then invest in the cards that, for the most part, are going to be very useful for a long time. So invest in those cards, bring those ones to events, and yeah. So that was the one thing I just wanted to elaborate on. But other than that, we'll jump into the interview. Thanks to everyone for participating, and obviously I'll hang around this whole time just in case there's any issues. But definitely let me know if there's any issues. But I think we tested it out, and it should be okay. So here is the interview between Jeff and me that we filmed last night. All right, welcome everybody to Star Wars CCG Holotheatre. We are doing an interview this week with the Endor Grand Prix 2022 champion, Jeff Levine. Welcome, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. So a lot to talk about. We'll try to hit the big points, and then keep the interview nice and concise. But I know there's lots to get into, and then as a tease, you mentioned that you're going to be doing a tournament report, so I hope everyone checks that out after this. So let's jump right in. So first off, I know this is what Dan usually asks everybody, and it's always really interested, or people are interested in this. But what's your story? What's your background? How did you get into the game? How did you come back to the game? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I got into the game a long time ago, probably like 1997 or 1998. I was like 12, and my cousin just had the game at his house. And me, my brother, and him would play, and we played completely. We'd have like Star Destroyers on the ground, or we had no idea how to play. And then we found a tournament, and we showed up and just checked it out, and kind of fell in love with the game right away. My brother also played. Nice. That sibling rivalry, kept us going. And then I kind of fell out of it right around when Death Star 2 came out.
Okay.
And then when the quarantine hit with it, just like everybody else, I didn't have a lot going on. I'm a lawyer, but like the courts were closed, so I just sit at the office all day and have like nothing to do. And I had a friend who mentioned the PC and all that, and I was like, this is the perfect time to like look into it. So I found GIMP, and I like downloaded a pre-made deck, and just started playing.
Yeah, and you're probably playing the game a lot differently than you used to, right? With all the rules being enforced and everything.
Yeah, and that's just, it was pretty intimidating with like all the virtual cards. I had never played with virtual card before, but I figured it's better just to dive right in instead of learn as you go. And I'd get crushed, and I'd play slow and probably piss people off. But everyone's so supportive and nice, it was like everyone is super welcoming, and I stuck around.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I was definitely going to ask you about, because it looked like you played the OCS of like the second half of 2020, played like a full slate in 2021. I just have your records up here, and it's just really neat seeing your growth, because it looks like 16 and 20 in 2022, and then you went 35 and 37 in 2021, and then really, let's talk about Nats, Worlds, Java Cup, Gen PC. You've really been doing really well, and your growth over the last, I guess, maybe 12 months or so is really incredible.
Yeah, thanks. And it's no big secret. Like I got into it, and I'm super competitive, and I just love this game. So like if I could, I would just play games like 24/7 all the time. Thankfully I have like a job and a girlfriend and friends that won't let me do that. But like left to my own devices, that's what it would be like. But like when you don't know what you're doing, it doesn't matter how many times you play, you're not really getting, or maybe incrementally better, but like not much better. And I can trace the improvement back to like a forum post. Somebody was like, is there a mentorship program or something? And then I don't remember who posted it, but Joe Olson was like, I'd be willing to mentor. I think it was like right after he won Worlds or something. So I was like,
which one? 2020.
Yeah, it was the first one. It was the online one. And I was like, well, let me just shoot him a message and see if he can like give me a few pointers. And I was just expecting, maybe, like a 10-minute phone call or like a few emails per month or something, but he gave so much of his time and spent so much time teaching me the game, helping me like, then the steps he pointed out. And I'm just going to say this very briefly for any new or returning player. It's like step one, get some good decks that are like top tier, throw away your pet trash QMC deck and like get something good. And then learn how to play it good. And he spent I sent him replays, and he would like spend 10 minutes per replay, like explaining what you did wrong, how you can do it better. And the thing is, I felt myself getting better and understanding the game more, but like my results weren't that much different. I won a little bit more, but it wasn't like some dramatic change. But 9 months of that, all of a sudden, like, I feel like this tipping point occurred where like everything clicked.
You
And it's not
consolidated
like,
your lessons learned, right?
yeah, like, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, so like, and that happened right at the turn of this year. Cause it's funny because I was talking to Joe and he's like, what are your goals for 2022? It's good to have goals and stuff. And I was like, it'd be great to qualify for day 2 of a major. And he was like, yeah, that's pretty ambitious, but it's good to have, ambitious goals. And that was right when like the Java Cup and the Gem PC and now the Endor Grand Prix, like, I feel like it was a culmination of a lot of work, and it just kind of tipped over to where I started seeing some good results now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think what I always try to advise new and returning players, just don't get discouraged. You play a bunch of times. There's just so many variables in every single game that, sometimes you're really close against a really good player and it was one decision that swung it. And it's like, okay, I know that for next time. Like, okay, I got a loss, but I'll just take that with me. And I'm sure that you did that a lot, in your first year and a half of playing the game again, of just, kind of having those trinkets of information. But I mean, looking at your Gem PC run, you went through, you were 12 seed, you beat CRG, who's a really good player, handful of top 8s, Coffee Pass Drew, who just came off, I think at that point, did he win the NPC at that point?
Yeah, that was right after he won the NPC. So I was really sweating that one.
Yeah. And then Steve Brenson and in the Sweet 16, who's an OG, and then Timo in the Elite 8. So, I mean, that's a really good stretch of players. And this was actually, a lot of that was probably after or maybe concurrent with the Java Cup, where you also went 5-1. You were the 8 seed going into the top 8. You took out the 1 seed, my teammate, Adam Fletcher, Echo Base Trooper. And then you faced Kevin. And I mean, that's a lot of good players and a lot of good experience. And I'm going to toss it to you in 1 second. But I think one really interesting thing about the OCS, the Java Cup, the Gem PC, they're all different. OCS, you fire up a random table. It's competitive, but you could play against really strong players, new players. Java Cup, that was a Swiss format event that cut to a top 8. And then Gem PC was just like this match play event where you could always change your decks game 1 to game 2. So what types of takeaways did you take away from those events?
So there was one takeaway from all of them, OCS, the Java Cup, and the Gem PC, and that really helped me moving into the Endor Grand Prix. And the takeaway was like, I can play with these guys. Like, I was like, part of it was prep, and what I noticed is I would I guess it kind of confirmed that I'm understanding the game better. Because like for the Java Cup, I'd be like, my opponents like to play this, so I'm going to play that. And it would be like, A, I'd be correct on my guess what deck I'm putting them on, but B, I would pick a good deck that played against that. And like if my opponent's playing No Idea, then I play to Digawatt, and it's a good matchup for me. And I guess it just made me feel like, I sit down against a player that's better or more experienced, and I don't immediately get that like super nervous, I can't win this feeling. And that's, that came in a lot of handy, obviously, just last weekend.
Yeah. And I think you had 2 pretty significant points of adversity, because in that top 4 match, I think you were doing pretty well against Kevin Yap, and I think the game crashed, and then you had to and I think you were doing pretty well, and the game 2 did not go your way. And then against Timo in the Elite 8 of the Gem PC, I believe you won game 1, and then he came back and won game 2. So I mean, those things happen. They're tough. It's easy to get like hang your head, but it sounds like you really transformed those lessons into, obviously the success with Endor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was tough. Especially the Java Cup one, because like I felt like had the game not crashed, I probably would have advanced in that round. But at the same time, Kevin's a great player and he's a great dude. And it's like, I took the positives, which is like, if you would have told me I'd be in the top 4 when this event started, I wouldn't have believed you. So you take the positives, and that's, and then in the Gem PC against Dylan, he's a great player. Before this event, I played him like 20 times and beat him once, maybe. He's just one of those guys who has my number.
He gets a lot of games in.
That's very true. And yeah, that was a bad beat too. And I was kind of kicking myself because right before that matchup, I switched out I was playing Black Sun. I switched out my 2 extra agents from Quietly Observing to Mitt and Arica, and I would have rather Doctory and Mara for that matchup. So it was just a tough beat. But you just learn from it.
That's great. And the two other points that are just kind of jumping out to me is like, one, what you were kind of discussing about earlier, and I think as any new and returning player, a lot of people might be intimidated coming to the game. You're like, some of these players have been playing this game continuously for 20, 25 years. You know, am I ever going to catch up to them? And I think that's the beauty of this game, is that there's enough randomness that, yeah, you're probably going to lose. You're going to lose a lot when you first start playing them, but you can get to the point where you then start getting isolated down to a couple decisions a game that can switch it, or a couple destiny draws, or a couple, if your opening hand's good, theirs is not good. It can happen. And that's really interesting, and a great point about these events in general that you took away, like, hey, I can play with them. So yeah, that's all really great stuff. And then I had something else I was going to say, and now I totally forget, but I'm sure it'll come back. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of great stuff there. Then, oh, that's what I was going to say. It's really neat to see how you, and I'm sure working with Joe, this is great that you honed in on a couple decks, Kwai Mooning and Agents of Black Sun. And maybe this is a perfect segue actually into kind of prepping for Endor. And me, I love Black Sun. I see you playing it a lot. I know Joe and I played it in top 8 at Worlds. And obviously, spoiler alert, you went 4-0, it looks like, on day 1 with Endor. And you did really well in the GenPC and Jawa Cup, I think, playing that a decent amount, right? So yeah, what was your kind of prepping for Endor? Were you kind of like, hey, Black Sun for sure, Kwai Mooning for sure, or entertaining other decks?
No, it's 100% credit to Joe for locking in on those two. I was of the opinion where I'm like, I was trying to do 3D, 4D, 5D chess, and I'm like, well, people are going to play Shadow Collective, so maybe I should play this. Or people, yeah, I was like, I have Black Sun and the Farm Kwai Mooning. I know how to play those, so if I last minute I can play them. But I was looking at Hoth Walkers for Dark Side, Shadow Collective to Digawatt for Light Side. I was looking at Old Allies, no idea. And like I was playing all this stuff and I was like losing. And I was telling Joe, like, man, I just don't know what to play. And he's like, dude, you're just right now. It was like 2 weeks before the event. He's like, I'm gonna tell you what to do. So right now you lock in on Black Sun and Farm Kwai Mooning. And immediately I felt this like weight lifted off my shoulders. He's like, they're both tier 1 decks. You know how to play them in and out, and you've been having good results with them. So just show up with those. And that really, and that really took the pressure off. And then I got to move on to stage 2, which is not what deck I'm going to play, but like what matchups do I expect and what kind of game plan do I need to get. And by the time the event came around, I felt like I had a really good handle of like, okay, if I see of game plans, and I felt comfortable. You know, I just felt like locked in. We'll see what happens. Yeah,
that's another perfect segue, because it looks like you had a lot of common matchups in your day 1. So yeah, we'll talk about these 8 games and the summary. You go 4-0 Dark Side. You played against 2 Y4Os, which I think they were kind of like not your traditional Y4Os. They had a little bit of ground in them, but Black Sun's heavily favored with those. You won both those. You played against 2 Yoda Communings, won both those, which I think some people go back and forth on Black Sun versus Communing, but I think it's a matchup that I think where your practice, you're familiar with the matchups, you're talking with Joe, probably helped a ton. And then you went 2-2 with Light Side. You beat the 2 CCTs, and then you lost to Joe's Shadow Collective in a game that was on stream very narrowly. And then Chris Worf's Rops virtual. And then
that was Brad Reinhold's Rops.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. And then Joe's Shadow Collective, right?
Yeah.
And then yes, I mean, you beat Kessling, Brenson, your teammate Batmouse. You lost to Joe narrowly. You beat Worf's Jeremy DePaulo, lost to your teammate Brad. And you beat Brandon in probably like a win and in game, because he finished 9th. So he had a really strong sense of schedule. I bet that was whoever won made it and whoever didn't. So yeah, I'll stop babbling. Tell me about your day 1.
So I think before I talk about day 1, I need to talk about the game plan process just a little bit. And it was like, the reason I picked Black Sun is because it can play against anything. There's no deck where it's an automatic loss. And what I really like about it is when people want to sell out for a specific deck, like if you really want to beat Shadow Collective, so you're like, this Y4 Ops or this Hidden Base or whatever is going to crush Shadow Collective. Black Sun just eats those for breakfast. It can beat like any of those sellout decks pretty easily. And so I was pretty sure that my toughest matchup I needed to have a game plan for would be specifically Kessling's Yoda Mooning mains with no space. And I played him in OCS.
You get it in the game 1. You got it in the first game.
Yeah. Well, I played him in OCS early March, and he crushed me. It was like embarrassing. And of course, like Joe and Hayes and a few guys were watching, and they were like sending me messages like, you're bad at this game. But it was just the wrong game plan. And then so like leading up to the game, I played Hayes and got crushed again, but I learned some important lessons. And then I played Joe and I won, and I played Hayes and I won. And I was like, okay, now I understand what I need to do. And then game one, it's like Kessler, like you just right into the fire.
Yeah.
So I got a chance to test out the game plan under like the bright lights of the tournament, and I won by one. Literally,
Oh
it was like a
wow.
super
Wow.
close game. Yeah.
Wow.
And there was a point where he had multiple dudes at all three Coruscant sites, and he had like close to double my life force. So it wasn't looking good, but I knew the game plan. I was wide at both of his Twixes. I had space covered, and I was staying alive on the ground, and the math just barely worked out for me.
Yeah. It's a really resilient deck, and that's where one of my teammates asked me a couple months ago, Stubbly, he's like, what do you like best about Black Sun? I'm like, it's versatile. Like you can, and it's a lot of people say it's a high skill deck, and that's where the practice that you put in, the hours you put in the games go a long way. But it's like you kind of those matchups, what route to go with the different matchups, and you execute, and that's where good results happen. And then, and you did, so this was your third in-person major, right? You did nationals last summer and you did worlds. I think we actually played, game 5.
At worlds. Yeah. You crushed me with Black Sun.
Yeah. Black Sun versus your Diplo. Yeah.
Diplo. Yeah.
I know. I think Joe says that he really likes Black Sun in that matchup, but I know the only Diplo I've ever lost to was Paul Myers, that build, which is really annoying, but that's some things erratas have happened. So, but yeah, let's jump into your day 2. So what was kind of your transition from day 1 to day 2? Did you kind of just say, hey, I'm probably going to change a couple of cards, but stick with the same themes?
Well, I was almost blessed by a lack of options going into day 2. Two things played into it. Number one, I own almost no physical cards. I have one guy here in Vegas who I borrowed some from. And then I had to borrow a bunch of Emperors and Lisas and Speaks from Joe and Hayes and them. So I don't have a lot of options to just switch. Also, I was so nervous. I didn't really eat that much day 1. And, my nerves were just fried. So we went to dinner after I qualified, and I didn't even talk to anyone. I went back to my room and went to sleep. And I'm like, I'm going to play the same decks. I might change a card or two. I'm not even going to think about it that hard. And I woke up for day 2 for Quaimuning. I think I changed one card. I added in an altar combo, I want to say, because I was expecting maybe someone playing a wacky dark side space deck where they're going to have Expand the Empire or Image or something like that.
Yeah.
And for dark, I think I just switched up the aliens. I went from Mitt and I can't remember who I had on day 1. It was Mitt and someone.
Dr.
Mitt
E or Mara or Araka.
Oh, so it was Mitt and Mara. So I just went from Mitt and Mara to Dr. E and Mara. So I just changed, and I think I had an altar combo in case some projections or something came out.
Were you playing the regular Dr. E or the Dr. E combo?
The combo.
Okay.
The combo, because what I learned in my testing was that disarming a dude and sending him lost is good, but disarming a dude and keeping him alive so they can't deploy another copy of him is even better.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
You're just running from their mains, you disarm them, and a mace who's disarmed is not that good. Or Luke disarmed when he tries to run Luke run, not that scary.
Yeah.
If you kill him, then he just puts out a new copy and can Yoda beam and saber back. You know what I mean?
And that's something that comes with reps.
Yeah, that's what I learned. Late game, when they're all disarmed, then you can start standing in front of them with your stack because they're going to clear one guy at a time because they have no more weapons.
Yeah.
So that's why I never bothered with the regular Dr. E.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because there's a lot of decks now that have 4 Old Man Luke or 2 or 3 Mace.
Yeah.
2 or 3 Serene, Qui-Gon. Yeah.
So just leave them there disfigured for all to see. I think that was my strategy anyway.
Yeah. So then you played Kuhn. Both games were on stream for the quarterfinals. It sounded like you had Quaimuning did execute your game plan for CCT, won by 23, and then the second game, he was getting it close, but eventually you eked out a close one, right? Advanced. Yeah.
So I won by 23, and then the second game, I was eating a lot of big drains because I was I think I'm going to get him down below the 23. He was upset because he battled when he had 22 life force, and I just declined Destiny, peeled the last 2, and that ends the game.
That's a pro play, yeah.
Yeah, and he had 2 retrieval. He had 2 retrieval still in the bag that he could have had, which would have put him up to 24. But he only had 1 card in hand, and I was doing 4 damage next turn, so I would have done strain for 3, shadows ping, and then draw up. It would have been the same thing.
Okay.
But in the moment, he was just a little upset because he didn't realize that once you start peeling, you can't do any actions until the peeling is over.
Yeah, and that's actually something that Jemp will teach people.
Yes, that's how I learned it.
Yeah, because you're wait, I want to do something. And it's no, you're not allowed.
No.
And that's one of the beauties of Jemp is that it teaches these rules and what's automatic actions and order of things and when to pass and all. But Yeah, I mean that's one thing I learned early on when many losses to Jump Tom, that you don't always have to draw Battle Destiny, and there's times that that was a really
You
good
don't want
play
to.
that it definitely comes with experience, but it could be a real pro play to just decline. Okay, so you
Yep.
moved on. You played Brian Fred in the semifinals. First game was not streamed. You were Kwai Mooning, and you lost in the same matchup that you won big. You lost narrowly, right, by 7.
Yeah, and I got to give B-Fred major props for that because I played twice in day one and Cone in round one of day two, played against CCT and won all of them by 20 plus. Obviously, day one they just scooped, but I was going to win by big because it should crush CCT. That's like what the main thing it was built for. But B-Fred, like, and I had everything going. I took over the audience chamber just as easily as I did the other games, but he went into space, he went wide. He satisfied resistance, and then he started attacking my Twixes. And my mistake was over deploying to the audience chamber, and I didn't have any more dudes left to go clear the JCC. And so he won by 7. I was very tilted by that because I was like, if I can't win this matchup, which is I'm super favored in, how am I going to win the closer
the
matchup?
farm build. Yeah, the farm build should definitely win. Okay. And then the second game we put you on stream because I think it was Brad was playing Joe, and that their game 2 went like lightning fast. And then Agents and versus Yoda Communing. It was an interesting end there. And B Fred, great guy, posted kind of what happened. I think Phil explained it a little bit on stream. But yeah, I guess my question to you on that is just what was going through your mind when he was just like, I'm out?
Well, yeah. So it's first off, my first emotion was I felt bad because it was my fault. Like, this is my 3rd time playing in person since like 20 years ago, and I'm like in day 2, and I have this like medication for I have back pain, and it like makes me jittery. So like several times throughout the tournament, I was like dropping stuff or like flipping, and so but this time it was like I was just flipped it over too early. It was my, it was my mistake. And I was like, oh shit, what do you want me to, pardon my French, but I was like, oh shoot, what do you want me to do? And B Fred was when it said, well, you should put it in and reshuffle, otherwise you're going to know who to target. And so I did. And then I drew a 6 instead of a 3. The 3 would have missed everyone. That's what he was so upset about, which I totally get. But he didn't realize that until I was already shuffling. So there's no real way to undo that.
Yeah. It's a tough situation.
But I do want to say that like I was in a really good spot that game. I was in space. I had his JCC. I had his Boss Nash chamber. I did a drain of like 4 plus a ping the previous turn, and I was looking to do 6 plus a ping that turn. And had the destinies gone differently, Ray would have survived. So we'd have had Leia with gun, Ray with saber, and just Chewie, or maybe not even Chewie if I just drew a 2 or lower. But Vigo would have survived that battle. He would have moved to the empty sewer. I would have done 6, ping 1, dropped a bunch of dudes to reinforce, and I had like everything I needed in my hand. I had U3PO.
Yeah.
I had sense for the run loop run. I had always thinking with your stomach to make one of his dudes go. I had all the stuff. Like I think I would have won, or I at least thought I was looking good for a chance to win.
Yeah,
Fred's a great player, so you never know how it would have shaken out, but I don't think it was one of those like I went from definitely losing to winning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I was confused. I thought the game was, still it wasn't done, but he was saying he had nothing in his hand. His opening hand wasn't great. Yeah, like you're saying, you had a lot that you can go to the next steps, even depending how the battle went. So that was there's a lot of questions on stream, but yeah, I think it's all worked out, I think.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because like Cone was upset when I just peeled. And like he was upset just for a split second when he thought that he would have won, but like and so he like yelled and threw his cards down. He wasn't mad at me, but yeah, like he's like and then when B Fred had kind of like his moment, I'm like, man, is it me? Like all my opponents are like rage quitting basically. So it kind of tilted me, but both of them are great guys, and they both came up to me and were like, look, I'm not mad at you, like it's just I'm a competitive player and I want to win. And I'm like, I totally get that.
Yeah,
it's just funny.
I've got a few stories like that too, but yeah, we all love this game so much. We all have a lot of passion, and then sometimes it's super, super frustrating in the moment of one thing goes one way, and then you kind of play the what if game. But but yeah, in your finals match, we don't have too much time left, but I know you had a great interview right after it with fittingly Joe. Talked about a little bit of that finals match, but the one thing, you won the first game as agents versus Brad's Yo Mooning, which I think he said was pretty tech for Router Ops or maybe it was CCT. But the second game, you'd had some really good plays when you top decked
Mm.
the ship, and then you were able to kind of do these things and maneuver your lost pile and walkling, and then you got roast set up, and that was a game that kind of that deck's built to smash mains, and I think you were probably going to win that game outright, not even just like by enough to win the match, right?
Yeah, I agree. That's what's so good. That's like the strength of the Qui-Gon farm build. It's a little less good than Yoda Muning or Pyre against straight up fighting people, but it's so much better against the field with a few card slots, Bips, with Bips and the Landing Claw, which you can only play those when you have the use pile pulls.
Right.
Just those few card and the Ray, and there's a BB8, or sorry, there's a Rose and a BB8 that allow you to grind out better, and the Baragwin, like it's just so much better against the field for that reason. And my heart sank for a second when I saw Bips get top decked, but then I realized I could just dig it out. And so
Nothing's ever really gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays, there's lots of ways, but that was a really good play, and you just kind of stabilized. You didn't panic, and that was definitely. And that's what's really neat to see. Kind of your everything kind of come together and make some key decisions that led to the victory. So. Like I said, it was a really good interview afterwards. If anyone hasn't watched it, a lot of Jeff's matches and games are on the YouTube channel if you want to watch it. The replays. So what'd you do after you won? You grab some food to eat, make a phone call?
Yes. So after we won, we went to my plane was flying out not too late, so we just went to dinner, and then I just got dropped off right at the airport. Flew out at like 9. But I was like in pretty much shock because I made the finals in Jawa Cup and Gem PC, but like an in-person event with a lot of good players there. I was like, yes, I qualified. Like that was my goal for the whole year. And then like somehow I won the whole thing. It was not expected or planned. I was very fortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think another kind of really neat message that your success has shown, and that I kind of experienced a little bit a while ago, is that it's really neat and confirming to ourselves, I think, that we play these games on Gemp, we get better, we learn all these things, and then you're kind of wondering, like, is this going to translate to in-person play? And then it's great to see when it does, because like kind of all the processes, you make sure your rules, and it's just the reps that you're able to get with Gemp and stay in tune with the meta, that really, the game it's definitely somewhat different in person, but the core of it is similar.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like Gemp has taught me so much, and I have so much to learn because I missed a bunch of stuff that the judges had to point out.
Oh yeah, you weren't the only one. There was some stuff, and that's where it's, I was kind of making a joke about like, oh, Gemp wouldn't have missed that, Gemp wouldn't have missed this, and it's I mean that's human nature, human element. Just think like 10 years ago when there was no Gemp at live events. It's kind of scary to think how many things were missed, but the game is complex, and that happens, and we kind of are doing a lot of things to try to make sure active judging, and I think the community as a whole, good players, new players, mediums, experienced players, are all just kind of getting more of, is this a bug? No, this isn't a bug. This is how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to go this way. So that's just really cool, in my opinion, to see. So I think we have a few more minutes. Just I know you probably want to shout out, you did this, you got a great team. That's really cool that Brad Batmastered pretty well. You guys practicing for this. It was probably neat just having kind of two different, working with Joe and working with your Killer Bees to kind of practice and get ready for this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to shout out Joe just one more time, because he put in like such a ridiculous amount of time. If I showed you my WhatsApp history, it was like almost like hours every week. But also the Killer Bees, it's great to have a team and have people to talk shop with and to bounce ideas off of, and not just for the winning of the games or playing the game, but like the camaraderie. Like that's half the reason I like to go to the tournaments, is to like see people and laugh and joke with them. I do just want to also shout out the rest of Team 5 as well, because leading up to the event, I played a lot of games with Hayes and talked on the phone with, Phil and Cal and Eric, and a lot they gave a lot of invaluable time and resources too. So it takes a village to make somebody like me good. And I'm grateful to all of them.
Yeah, that's really great. And then that's where, it's said a lot, but I think you lived it. And I think a lot of us, almost all of us, have lived it, that sense of community, the sense that this is not super adversarial. People are, we're competitive, but at the same time, we like to share information, share tech, I think nowadays there's so many teams, but yet there's still a lot of cross testing on the teams, which is really, really cool to see that. It's not like this, Bloods and the Crips. It's everyone gets along, and for the most part. So that's cool. I guess just going forward, do you feel like there's gonna be a little more pressure on you for events and more eyes on you now? The name people know more so.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't think so. Like, I feel like it's almost like cool. I've like accomplished this thing, so now the pressure's kind of off. Like, if I don't qualify at nationals, it's sort of like you can't qualify for them all, right? I feel like you kind of get a path.
Oh, yeah.
It's like winning the Super Bowl. You get a few years where
For
like
sure.
you don't need to win another one before people start whispering about you and stuff.
Yeah.
So if we have time, I just have one final kind of parting thing I want to say to any like new or returning players. Do we have time for that?
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, if you love this game and want to get better, just ask people. Like, I haven't come across anyone who wouldn't be willing to take the time to explain how to get better, look at your deck, give you, some messages on how to play better, play games with you. I know I'd be happy to, and most of the people in the community are. We just want more players. So if you love this game and want to get better, all you have to do is ask.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of different ways to do it. You do Slack, Discord, the forums, Gemp. People are always down to play games, and most part talk tech. So that's great parting words. But yeah, so Jeff, thanks so much for this interview. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. We're going to sign off here and then tune in next week for Holotheatre. I think Dan will be back at that point. But yeah, thanks again, Jeff, and good luck in your future events.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks
care.
for having me.
Yep.
Bye-bye.